Dodger baseball. Live from Dodger Stadium, Sportsnet LA presents the Dodgers as they take on the San Diego Padres. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Thursday evening to you, wherever you may be. The Dodgers in San Diego playing in Los Angeles. First time this year, believe it or not. They've had 6 meetings in San Diego, and the Dodgers have won 4 out of 6. Clayton Kershaw goes to the mound tonight. Clayton with a record of 10-2. He has 36 consecutive scoreless innings, and he has a 7-game winning streak. But hold on, even though San Diego is not playing particularly well, they've given him a bad time. They beat him 3 times last year. He's 1-3 last year, and in his career, 9 wins and 6 losses. On the mound for San Diego, his name is quite a challenge, and that would be Odresamir Despaigne. How about that? Well, it's quite a name, but he's also quite a young pitcher. 27 years old from Havana, Cuba. He beat the Giants, allowing 1 run in 7 innings. Then he beat Arizona, allowing 1 run. And then he also pitched 6 innings of scoreless ball against San Francisco. You'd have to go 100 years to find 6 other pitchers who made their debut 3 games where they allowed just 1 or no runs and worked at least 6 innings in every game. So the name is tough. He might even be tougher. We'll find out about that. We'll have the ball game and a whole lot more coming up right after this.
Expects to win every game and to get everybody out.
Slow curveball. See you later. And down he goes. Oh, that's not fair.
Got him walking. 36 consecutive innings
of shutout baseball. Every fifth day is certainly appointment television. That is because every fifth day, Clayton Kershaw, the Dodgers ace, takes the ball for his Los Angeles Dodgers. Hello, everybody, and welcome inside Dodger Stadium. I'm Alana Rizzo. Clayton Kershaw once again on the hill for Los Angeles, facing the Padres in Game 1 of a 4-game set. And he has a 36-inning scoreless streak on the line. The only thing Clayton cares about, though, is the W. And he's been absolutely dominant so far for the Los Angeles Dodgers in 2014. Clayton in control is absolutely right. Really, it could say Clayton is dominant. Most consecutive games with at least 8 punch-outs and no runs allowed. This goes way back to 1914. He's on the list, of course, the only active pitcher right now. Pedro Martinez, the last to do it. In fact, 2 Red Sox. Pedro Martinez in 2002 and Ray Colt back in 1968. Clayton Kershaw, of course, already out here warming up, getting ready to take on the San Diego Padres. Game 1 of a 4-game set. After the break, the best pitcher in baseball on the hill for Los Angeles and the best announcer in the game, Vince Scully, on the call. We'll be right back.
Evening to you, wherever you may be. Welcome to Dodger Stadium. The Dodgers have taken the field, and Clayton Kershaw making the walk to the mound to begin Game 1 of the 4-game series with San Diego. Of course, when Kershaw goes to the mound, he brings a lot with him. As Bud Black was quoted as saying, if you had one game to win, I guess I would take Clayton Kershaw, because every time he pitches, he's in such great control. Well, we'll see about Bud Black. Right alongside I'm Dave Roberts, and we'll take a look at Bud's lineup now as he goes up against Clayton Kershaw. Kristen Norfia, with 3 home runs in his career against Kershaw, leads off in right field. Chase Headley at third. Carlos Quentin returns to the regular role in left field. Tommy Medica at first base. Yasmani Grandal behind the plate. Brooks Conrad at second base. Cameron Maben in center field. Alexei Amarista, the shortstop, and Odresamer Despaigne will be on the mound for San Diego. Clayton Kershaw, well, the numbers are what you would expect. First of all, he has a 7-game winning streak. He is 10-2 with a brilliant earned run average of 1.8. He will be facing a good lineup, but at the same time a lineup that has had a lot of problems, and yet last year they beat him 3 times. In his career, Kershaw is 9-6 against San Diego. You almost want to say only 9-6. And the first man he faces will be Chris Denorfia, the veteran out of Connecticut, who boasts, and not that he would boast, but he does have 3 home runs, and he's hitting .310 against Clayton Kershaw. The other fellow with more home runs against Kershaw than Denorfia is over in the American League. Adam Dunn had 4. Clayton ready, fastball for a strike, and we're underway. 0-1. The Padres have been playing in spurts. They had a 5-game winning streak. That ended. They come in here having lost 2 in a row and 4 out of 5. Denorfia takes another strike, and the count 0-2. A gorgeous evening, 73 degrees at the start of the game. Dodgers, however, can't call it home sweet home. They're 1 game under 500 at home. Denorfia promptly bangs one to right center. On the dead run is Scott Van Slyke to pick it off. So Denorfia, a tough out, lines out, and we have 1 down. Take a look at the Dodgers with the leather. Gonzalez and Gordon, Ramirez, Uribe, with Kemp, Van Slyke, and Puig. A.J. Ellis, as usual, handling Clayton Kershaw. So the batter now is the veteran switch-hitting third baseman, Chase Headley. Kershaw ready, fastball foul back, and the count 0-1. Couple of things about the Padres. During the month of June, the Padres hit 171 as a team. That's the lowest monthly average since 1920, the so-called lively ball era. However, in July, they come in here hitting 268. Slow curveball in for a strike, and the count 0-2. Somehow, hitting 171, the Padres still won 10 games in June. They're 4-4 in July. Kershaw's next pitch fouled off, so the count stays 0-2. Last year, the Padres 3-1 against Kershaw, actually winning the first 3, including right here, 2 of them at Dodger Stadium. Clayton has allowed only 8 home runs to the Padres in his career, and they hit 5 of them last year. Curveball is hit foul off to the right, back into the stands, and the count stays 0-2. Interesting, too, we were talking about Chris Denorfia a moment ago. Denorfia has 3 home runs against Kershaw. Dunn has 4. Dunn has 453 career home runs, and Denorfia in his career only 36. Strike 2 pitch on the way is swung on and foul back, and the count stays no balls and 2 strikes. So Chase Headley, switch hitter, trying to get something started against Kershaw. Headley back up, waiting. Won a Gold Glove 2 years ago. Chases one low and comes up empty. So Headley strikes out. Strikeout number 1 for Clayton. And the batter will be Carlos Quentin. We haven't seen much of Quentin. He's been banged up. However, he is hitting .273 against Clayton. The Carlos checking in. The Padres have had success offensively going to the bench. They've had 7 pinch hit home runs. They've had 35 pinch hits. That's number 2 in the entire league. And they have 17 RBIs from players coming off the bench. So with 2 down, first inning, no score. Kershaw into the windup, left-handed delivers very high, ball 1. 1-0, 92-mile-an-hour fastball. So Carlos Quentin waiting at the plate, hitting 171. He's only been in 41 games. Swings, fouls it back, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike. In looking at the San Diego hitters, Chase Headley, who just struck out, had so far 12 hits in July. Tommy Medic on deck has done well as a pinch hitter. Ground ball slowly foul outside of third down the line, and the count 1 ball and 2 strikes. Carl Crawford is back finally. Crawford banged up with that bad ankle He's only appeared in 44 games. Carl back in Dodger uniform in the dugout to make room for Crawford returning. Clint Robertson has been sent down to Albuquerque. The next pitch high and a 2-ball 2-strike count to Carlos Quentin. So Crawford at home. Dodgers figure that there's not much room in the outfield to start him, but we'll see. 2-2 pitch on the way. Kershaw delivers, foul back. A lot of foul balls already here in the first inning. You might also be interested to know that during his 36-inning scoreless streak, he's faced 17 batters with runners in scoring position. The batters are 0 for 17 and have not hit the ball out of the infield. 2-2 pitch on the way. Clayton delivers, beaten foul again. Another note about Clayton, there have been just 3 extra base hits, all by the Cardinals. That was 2 starts ago when the Dodgers won the game 6-0. Yadier Molina, Mark Ellis, and Matt Carpenter all doubled. Carpenter became the first left-hand hitter ever to get 3 hits in a game against Clayton. 2-2 pitch on the way. Off speed, foul back. Clinton just got a little bit of that. 2-2 the count. So Carlos Quentin, who went to Stanford, had Tommy John surgery in 2003 when he was at Stanford. And as you may know, if you follow closely enough, he usually gets hit a lot by pitches. He swings, hits one in the air into shallow center. Gordon watching. Van Slyke is in to make the catch, and that'll be that. Okay, that makes it 37 consecutive scoreless innings, and at the end of half an inning, Padres nothing, Dodgers coming up. The first inning, Kershaw's string is now at 37, and Clayton made only 17 pitches. However, one little fly in the ointment. There were 9 foul balls, so Clayton had a 2-strike count on everybody, and he was able to put away 1. Let's take a look now at the lineup offensively for him, trying to get him some runs. It'll be D. Gordon, the All-Star, at second base. Hanley Ramirez, followed by Yasiel Puig, Adrian Gonzalez. Then you have Matt Kemp and Scott Van Slyke in center, Juan Uribe, A.J. Ellis, and Clayton Kershaw. Odrisamer Despaigne out on the mound as D. Gordon checks in. Despaigne is from Havana, Cuba. Looks a little bit older than 27, but that's his age listed. Right-hander ready and delivers, and the fastball is strike. Interesting about Despaigne, the leadoff hitters in his 3 previous games have hit .375 against him, and the number 7 hitter in the lineup hits .500 against him. Strike 1 pitch on the way outside, 1-1. When he gets to the number 3 through 6 in the lineup. They're hitting .097 against him. He's an even 6, about 190 pounds. Comes over the top, a shot up the middle. There you go. Leadoff man with another base hit. Whether he is properly warmed up in the bullpen or whatever, he is obviously having a lot of trouble with the leadoff batter, and Gordon certainly shows that's true with a base hit. Here are the Padres defensively: Medica and Conrad, Amarista and Headley, with Quentin, Maben, and Denorfia. Grandal behind the plate, and Despaigne on the mound. So the batter now is Hanley Ramirez, with Gordon trying to put some pressure on here at the outset. A possible theft, of course, in the wind. He has stolen 42 out of 51. Hanley, 11 home runs, 48 runs batted in. Gordon holds, and the pitch off the plate, ball one. 1-0. Hanley batting .271. He has a look to see whether they might put a take on him and run D. Gordon. Gordon, reasonable lead right now, held on at first by Tommy Medica. There he goes, the 1-0 pitch, hit and run, ground ball into right field. It was vacated when Brooke Conrad broke to cover, and the Dodgers have runners at first and third, and nobody out. So Gordon singles up the middle. Hanley Ramirez, a perfectly executed hit and run single. Second baseman broke to cover, and the door was wide open. Gordon looked to make sure and then kept on going to third base. So the Dodgers first and third, nobody out, and Yasiel Puig coming up. He'll be followed by Adrian Gonzalez and then Matt Kemp. Haven't seen much of it yet. One of the things they say about Despaigne is that he changes his arm slot. He'll be over the top. He'll throw three-quarters. He'll throw sidearm. We'll see what he does with Puig. One Cuban against the other. Yasiel batting .307. First ball swinging, doesn't get it. 0-1 the count. Puig with 12 home runs, 50 runs batted in. Adrian Gonzalez, the big man, 14 home runs, 58 runs batted in, and Adrian hitting behind him. So the Dodgers with a great number with runners in scoring position. Team batting average .278. Strike one, pitch off speed, drops in nicely. That changeup was 69 miles an hour. Of course, for Despaigne, he played for the Industriales of the Cuban National Series. He played for the national team for a good 7 or 8 years. Traveled to Mexico, and that's when he defected, became a resident of Spain. A bluff by Hanley Ramirez, and the pitch way off the plate. 1-2 the count. Now the leadoff hitter singled. We told you that the leadoff hitters have been giving him a bad time. However, the number 3 through 6 hitting .097 against him. So see what happens now. 1-2 the count to Yasiel Puig. Dodgers won 11 and lost 8 to the Padres last year. 1-2 pitch, big breaking ball away, and the count 2-2. Dodgers came home with a 2-game losing streak, running into Verlander and Scherzer in Detroit. They've had 3-game losing streaks 3 times this year. They have won 9 of the last 13 at home, but with all of that, Dodgers are still 1 game under 500 at Dodger Stadium. Despaigne ready, turns, throws to first. Hanley back on the bag. Two balls and 2 strikes. Puig waiting, Despaigne set. Now the right-hander ready in the 2-2 pitch. Breaking ball, slider, down and away. Puig chased it and strikes out. So the numbers are holding up so far. The leadoff hitters give him a bad time, and he nails a number 3 hitter. Slider way off the plate in the dirt. Puig, hungry for an RBI, came up empty. So 1 out. Runners at first and third, And now the butter and egg man as far as the Dodgers are concerned, Adrian Gonzalez checking in. Despaigne made his major league debut against the Giants, went 7 innings and shut him out. He went a little more than 6 against Arizona, allowed them 1 run. Came back against the Giants, allowed them 1 run. Ground ball to the right side, the feed for 1, and there you have it. He has done it again. The leadoff hitter wears him out, and the numbers 3, 4, 5, and 6 futile against him. No runs, 2 hits, and at the end of an inning, no score. First of all, he gave up a base hit to Gordon and 1 to Ramirez. Then he threw nothing but 1 changeup and a lot of sliders to strike out Puig, and then he got Gonzalez to ground into the double play. So the veteran, although he is labeled a rookie in the National League, gets through the first inning on 11 pitches. And now we'll see about the Padres going up against Clayton Kershaw. Padres have been shut out 12 times this year. The Cubs, the Phillies 11, Cincinnati 10. Dodgers have only been shut out 3 times. First pitch, ground ball to third. Uribe is up with it. Fires right at Adrian Gonzalez. So Medica, the boy from San Jose, didn't hang around and taps to third.
Catcher number 8.
1 out in the second inning. Yasmani Grandal coming up. Grandal is 4 for 8 in the past against Clayton Kershaw, although he's hitting only .206. Kershaw ready, comes to the right-hand hitter, gets it in for a strike. 0-1. Grandal asking for time, now checks in. Strike 1 pitch is swung on, golfed at, and missed, and the count 0-2. Interesting, with Puig in right field, Despaigne on the mound, and Yasmani Grandal, 3 players right away that hail from Cuba. 0-2 the count. Kershaw ready, left-hander back, fastball chopped to third, nice hop. Uribe has it, throws the catcher out easily, and we have 2 down in the second inning. That will bring up Brooks Conrad. Brooks Conrad, a switch hitter. He's from San Diego, went to Arizona State, lives over in Gilbert, Arizona. His dad, a former high school and junior college football player. He's 5'11" and a good 190 at least. His father built a batting cage and then bought a pitching machine for Brooks, who chases a bad ball 92 up and way out of the zone. 0-1 the count. But for Brooks Conrad, with all of that, he played soccer until he was 12. Then he was on the basketball court for a while and eventually came back for baseball, fouls the next pitch back, and the count 0-2. Brooks Conrad, who does not wear a batting glove. There are only a couple of guys left now who don't wear them. He collected baseball cards growing up and hung Tony Gwynn posters in his room. Here's the strike 2 pitch on the way. Curved ball, got him looking. Whoa, a 74-mile-an-hour dandy. Down go the Padres. That makes it 38 consecutive scoreless innings. He did it on 7 pitches with that big curveball at the end of an inning and a half. No score. Clayton Kershaw has retired 6 in a row, a total of 24 pitches on this gorgeous summer's evening, trying to extend his scoreless streak. It's now up to 38. Cameron Maybin, then Alexei Amarista, and then it will be Despaigne when the Padres come up in the third. Matt Kemp will start it off for the Dodgers, followed by Scott Van Slyke and Juan Uribe. No score. Bottom of the second. Dodgers blew a great chance. First and third, nobody out. Puig struck out. Gonzalez hit into a double play. So Despaigne into the windup, ready in the first pitch to Matt Kemp, taken a little high. Ball 1. 1-0 the count. Matt Kemp on the road trip, 7 for 20 for the year, hitting .292. 1 ball and no strikes. Next one swung on and missed. By the way, for whatever reason, Tommy Medica grounded out and has had to leave the game. Rene Rivera, normally a catcher, takes over at first base for Tommy Medica. Despaigne working on Matt, and the 1-1 pitch on the way. Breaking ball. When you see the breaking balls that he has, when you see what he did with Yasiel Puig, you wonder why he'd ever throw a fastball for a strike. Sliders and curves. Right-hander ready. And the 1-2 pitch to Matt Kemp. Breaking ball whacked foul. That breaking ball was in on the hands, and Kemp really turned and pulled it a little too much. The breaking ball that has always given Matt a bad time, along with Puig and just about anybody else who's played the game, is either that hard slider or the hard tight curve down and away. In on the hands, that's another story. Here's the 1-2 pitch coming up. This is the big slider off the plate, and the count 2-2. Bottom of the second inning, no score. Despaigne working on gum, looks in to get a sign, says no to his catcher. Now the 2-2 pitch on the way, and a hard ground ball backhanded by Amarista, and the shortstop throws out Matt Kemp, and we have one away. We also have a moment, a delightful moment, to send our heartiest congratulations to Jared Stafey and his wife Kathleen. On Tuesday, July the 8th, Sasha Helen Stacy arrived in this world, checking in at 7 pounds 6 ounces. So to Jared and Caitlin, and especially little Sasha, all of our heartiest congratulations and much love. Their first daughter arriving on the scene. Jared Stacy is a Time Warner Channel coordinating producer, a member of the family. Here's Van Slyke. He takes a strike, and the count 0-1. No score, second inning. Right-hander comes back with a change-up and floats it in there at 67. The change that he threw to Puig was 69. No balls, 2 strikes. Despaigne ready, back with a fastball this time, but he missed a little up. He threw that thing at 95. Well, this is the number 6 hitter. Remember, we were talking about the fact the number 1 hitter and the number 7 hitter, they wear him out. Big slider off the plate, and the count 2-2. Juan Uribe is number 7 on deck. 2-2 pitch on the way. Almost a cutter, just a sharp break to it that missed. 3-2 the count. One of the interesting things about Despaigne, he had the 3 highly successful starts, despite striking out only 5 and walking 8. 3-2 fastball on the hands, little ground ball, tough play for Amarista, and he makes it. So Alexei Amarista, one of the smaller men in the game, but plays a big part and has a big grin on his face after making a fine play. So everything has followed. We told you the leadoff hitter gives him a bad time, and Gordon singled. We also told you that from number 3 through 6, he's dynamite. They're hitting less than 0.95. But now he comes to the number 7 hitter, and the 7 hitter has been hitting 500 against him. Oh, let's see. Uribe hitting .301. Despaigne ready. Here he comes. Foul back. 0-1 the count. Late life on that pitch. At the very last second. Looked like it was a straight fastball, and it just seemed to veer a little bit. He has fastball cutter, so I think that was the cutter. Now the strike 1 pitch on the way. Slider fouled away upstairs. So he has Uribe now. No balls and 2 strikes. Another thing about Despaigne, he only allowed 2 runs in his big league starts. He hadn't allowed a run after the 4th inning. 0-2 the count to Uribe. Fastball barely fouled. That time Despaigne kind of came down in his delivery. That was another thing we had heard about him. He not only has 4 different pitches, but he also has different arm slots. Sometimes 3/4, sometimes top, sometimes sidearm. 0-2 the count. Despaigne delivers off speed, pull foul. That wasn't that 69-mile-an-hour change. This one came up at 79, and Uribe all over it, pulled it foul. Despaigne defected while in Cuba for the 2013 World Tournament. He misses down and away ball 1. That's when he became a legal resident of Spain, moved on to Mexico, spent 8 years pitching in Cuba for their big Nacional team. The 1-2 pitch on the way. Fastball got him swinging, so he gave them all in the store, and it has followed. He has struck out 2, he has given up 2 hits and nothing else. And at the end of 2, no score. Padres at 110. The first 40,000 fans in attendance take home a portable speaker, compliments of State Farm. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. Cameron Maybin, Alexei Amarista, and then Despaigne the pitcher. Well, I wondered if I'd ever do it again, and I guess I should start right now. It goes back to when Don Drysdale was setting his string. Clayton delivers, chopper foul, 0-1 the count. And looking at all the zeros that Drysdale was piling up, I remember calling it a string of pearls. And by the time Don set the record at the time, Walter O'Malley bought Don's wife a string of pearls. Big breaking ball up, 1 ball, 1 strike. Then I filed that away until 1988 when Orel Hershiser established a string of pearls. 1-1 pitch is fouled back. I wondered if I'd ever see it again. Well, Clayton Kershaw has 38 pearls on the string, working on 39 here in the 3rd inning. Brandon Webb, when he was with Arizona, had a scoreless streak. That was 42 back about 2007. Ground ball hard. Nice pick by Uribe. Gets up to throw him out. So Cameron Maybin robbed of a hit by Juan Uribe, and we have 1 out here in the 3rd inning. So with 1 away, Alexei Amarista coming up. I love the way Uribe goes down to get it on the glove side, spins on his hip as if he's on a turntable, comes up and guns an accurate throw to first. It's a sight to behold. And Cameron Maybin had his pocket picked. And here's Amarista, first ball swinging, doesn't get it, and the count 0-1. Amarista, 2 home runs, 14 runs batted in, 5.7, 150. They look to see, and the call is no swing by Jim Wolf. Jim Wolf, the brother of left-hander Randy Wolf. 1 ball and 1 strike. Amarista is from Barcelona, Venezuela. He swings, lines it to left. It's in front of Matt Kemp for a base hit. So a 1-out single by Alexei Amarista, and the batter now will be Despaigne. And we'll have to look and see what he's done. Despaigne has had 5 at-bats. He's 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts. The Kemp plays it on a bounce. And here is Despaigne. Amarista has stolen as many as 38 in the minors. Dodgers looking bunt from Despaigne. Kershaw set, looks over at first. The bunt picked up by Kershaw. His only play is to underhand it to D, covering. So Despaigne does his job, gets the bunt down. So Amarista at second base with 2 out. And the fellow who has hit Kershaw and hit him hard in the past, Chris Denorfia, coming up. Denorfia has everything going, the 3 home runs, the .300 batting average, and he wears number 13. So let's see what all that means. Chris from Connecticut, went to Wheaton College, came up with the Reds, then he went to the A's and came to the Padres back in 2010. So 2 out, runner at second in scoring position, and Clayton out of his stretch. Looks back at second, now comes to the plate and misses low and inside, ball 1. Remember, we gave you that note earlier. During the shutout streak, there have been 17 runners in scoring position against Kershaw, and the hitters are 0 for the 17. 1 ball and no strikes to Chris Denorfia. Amarista bluffs as a 1-hopper picked up by D. Gordon and throws to first for the out. The inning is over. So add another pearl to the string. That makes it 39 consecutive scoreless innings. And at the end of 2.5 innings, no score. Coming in, but they're going to spot a lot of zeros. Nothing's really happened. For the Dodgers in the bottom of the third, it'll be A.J. Ellis, then Clayton Kershaw, followed by D. Gordon. Odrisamir Despaigne. That is quite a name for the young man from Cuba, but so far he has lived up to exactly what we had heard about him. So now working on Ellis, and the right-hander ready. Fastball shoots in at the knees for a strike. That fastball at 91. He's hit as high as 95, and he has now made 30 pitches. Despaigne ready, comes right back. Slider down and away. 1 ball and 1 strike. Amazing when you think about it. 3 starts, at least 6 innings in each start, 1 run or no in the 3. You have to go back 100 years and you'll find 6 other pitchers who have done that well. The 2-1 pitch on the way, fastball at the knees, and the count 2 balls and 2 strikes. AJ hitting .229. Despaigne ready in the 2-2 pitch. Check swing, and the pitch just off. They look at first. Tony Randazzo said no swing. 3-2 the count. Brian Gorman, the veteran umpire, charged with the responsibility of balls and strikes. Brian is a chip off the old block. He's the crew chief. He has spent over 22, almost 23 years doing a magnificent job as a major league umpire. His dad, Tom, was a major league umpire for 25 years and also wore number 9, which is what Brian does. 3-2 pitch on the way is fouled off. I've told the story once or twice as we see Brian, but we don't see Brian very often. When his father, Tom Gorman, who was a sweetheart of a guy, when his father passed away, they not only buried Tom in his umpire's uniform, they put the ball and strike indicator in his hand. Ground ball, little Amarista all over the place. His throw to first, and you have a catcher, not a first baseman, remember. And Rivera tried to stay on the bag. If he comes off the bag, he could have handled the throw and stepped on it. They're going to give Amarista the error. But again, remember, that's a catcher over there at first. Any first baseman worth his salt would have just gone off, made the catch, and still had plenty of time. So it's kind of unfair. Amarista makes a good play, but they give him the error instead where it should belong on Rene Rivera. However, anyway, to get back to Tom Gorman, when they buried Tom in his umpire's uniform with the indicator in his hand, the indicator showed 3-2. Now the pitch gets away at the plate, and down to second base goes A.J. Ellis. So we'll see how they rule it. Yasmani Grandal tried to backhand the ball. That's a big mistake. Wow. A lot of times you will see a catcher not shift his body, but that's usually late in the game when the catcher's a little tired. For Grandal, that's a big mistake. And for Bud Black, he needs a little more dose of patience. He excels in that. Bunt by Kershaw, perfectly executed. Headley throws him out, and down to third goes Ellis. So Kershaw pushes the ball up along third. There wasn't a thing Headley could do except go in and field it. Over to third easily goes Ellis. So the Dodgers get a big break. They have a runner at third with 1 out. They left or had the opportunity first and third and nobody out in the first inning, and they blew that chance. For Kershaw, that was his 3rd sacrifice this year. And now here's Gordon, who led off the game with a base hit. D is hitting .300 as befits an all-star. He takes off the plate, ball 1. For the Padres, the infield up on the right side, up on the left, although Amarista is a couple of steps back of being up, if that makes sense. He is not near the rim as the other 3 are. Despaigne ready, and the 1-0 pitch on the way. Right-hander's fastball hit foul outside of third down the line, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike. No score in the ball game. Dodgers had a great opportunity in the first inning. Now they have a very good opportunity in the third. For Dresemir Despaigne out of Havana, Cuba. Right-hander's 1-1 pitch, slow curveball fouled away. That came up there at 69, so he took a lot off that. 1-2 the count. Despaigne idolized Orlando El Duque Hernandez. There are other fellas from Cuba. Orlando Hernandez had been his idol since he was a child. Now the 1-2 pitch on the way. Despaigne at the belt. Right-handed delivers. Slow curveball pull foul right into the far corner of the San Diego dugout. Still 1-2. One of the things that Despaigne has done, not only mixing up pitches, we mentioned mixing up arm angles in his delivery. 1-2 the count. Now the right-hander ready, and the 1-2 pitch is a breaking ball down, swung on and missed hard, and going after the bad ball. Gordon strikes out.
Shortstop number 13, Hanley Ramirez.
That would be the third strikeout for Despaigne, and the Dodgers send up Hanley Ramirez. In the first inning, Gordon singled, and the Dodgers put on a hit and run play. Gordon took off. Brooks Conrad, the second baseman, broke to cover, and Ramirez grounded one right through the vacated spot for a hit into right field. Only then Puig struck out, and Gonzalez hit into a double play. Despaigne looks over at third at Ellis, comes to Hanley off the plate. 1 ball and no strikes. Hanley another look down to Bundy. A.J. Ellis standing right on the bag. Despaigne set at the belt, and the 1-0 pitch, change up, swung on and missed. That came up there at 68. 1-1 the count. Over in this country, Despaigne played for 3 teams. First El Paso in the Coast League, then San Antonio in the Texas League, and then here in the big leagues. 1 ball and 1 strike. He says no to Grandal. So they have a Cuban battery. That has to help. 1 ball and 1 strike. Grandal, who was quoted as saying how much he enjoys catching Despaigne because of all the action. It's quite a challenge to handle him. 1-1 pitch on the way. Breaking ball for a strike. That's 76 miles an hour. So he's not only mixing up his pitches, he is mixing up the velocity and, for good measure, the arm angle. Grandal says he has 2 different types of curveballs from 2 different arm angles. Right-hander ready again. 1-2 pitch, slider, half swing, strike 3. So he does it again. Dodgers get a runner at first and third, nobody out, fail to score. Dodgers get a runner at third, 1 out, fail to score. At the end of 3, no score. brought to you by Jack in the Box. Head to Jack in the Box for the new jalapeno ranch or barbecue ultimate cheeseburgers at participating restaurants. And by the Ram 1500, Motor Trend's 2014 Truck of the Year and first ever back-to-back champion. No score, fourth inning. No score. That seems to go right along with Clayton Kershaw's name and number. Right now, he's in pursuit of another inning of scoreless play. He has now gone 39 consecutive scoreless innings. Outside of the big two, Orel Hershiser, Don Drysdale, that would be the longest streak. Pop fly, Hanley Ramirez. One away.
Batting next, left fielder, number 18.
Clayton, of course, on the All-Star squad. It'll be interesting to see whether he opens up the All-Star game or not in Minnesota. He's given up one hit, single by Amarista in the third inning. Actually, the scale's balanced because Maben was robbed on a fine play by Uribe. Strike. Carlos Quentin flied to center, first inning. Quentin, born in Bellflower, lives in Chula Vista. 0-2. We told you he went to Stanford. He'll be 32 the end of August. Originally a first-round pick by Arizona in 2003. 1-2. Kershaw has struck out 2. Despaigne has struck out 4. And down goes Quentin. So that would be the third strikeout. We mentioned Clayton Kershaw being an all-star, and we actually would like to congratulate all 4 of the Dodger members. Zach Greinke, second time. Clayton Kershaw, his 4th time selected. Yasiel Puig, his first selection. And probably the great story from a guy who really came from nowhere, and that would be D. Gordon, the all-star. Remarkable at second base. Here's Rene Rivera having to finish up at first base. Tommy Medica, the regular first baseman, grounded out in the second inning. And something happened, and he's had to give way to Rivera, who is a catcher. And you could tell that when they gave Amarista the error on the throw in the third inning. One of the hardest things about playing first base, footwork. Slow curveball, 1-2. Here's Tommy Medica. It's the ground ball. Looks like he's running okay. Slows down, and then there was a little contortion on his face. Something happened running to first. Fastball, 2-2. So Rene Rivera, he's from Puerto Rico, originally drafted by the Mariners. Two balls, 2 strikes. Fouled off. We had a chance to meet Rene and his wife and the newborn twins. His wife Marielle delivered the twins in March of this year. His understatement was, that really changes your life. Oh boy, have I got news for you, Rene. It won't change your life. You'll have a totally different life. 3-2. He'll be 31 the end of the month. Grandal waits on deck. No score, 4th inning. Down he goes. So Kershaw strikes out 2 to give him 4. More importantly now, he's gone 40 consecutive scoreless innings. Add another pearl to that beautiful necklace. No score. What's ahead? Well, we don't even know what's ahead in the bottom of the inning, but we do know what the calendar tells us, namely the fact the Padres will be here tomorrow night, Saturday night, and Sunday afternoon. Then you'll have the 4-day All-Star break with the game being played on Tuesday in Minnesota. Dodgers then will pick up and go back on the 18th. They'll be on the road in St. Louis and Pittsburgh, concluding a weekend in San Francisco. And they'll come home to play Atlanta, the Cubs, and the Angels. For Clayton Kershaw, as he sits in the Dodger dugout trying to work his way up the ladder, Luis Taillon had 40 consecutive scoreless innings for Boston. Gaylord Perry had 40 for the San Francisco Giants. Walter Johnson had 40 for the Washington Senators. We'll see if we have to check higher up on the list. Another note about Kershaw: with 4 strikeouts tonight, he has struck out 121 and walked 12. So the story belongs to Clayton. The game is very much up in the air. Yasiel Puig struck out on breaking balls. This time fastball lined off the body of Despaigne, and around first. There goes Puig for 2. Throwing to second base. He's in there standing up. Whoa, he got a fastball after all those breaking balls, and I mean, that was a letter from home. He was all over that, and they want to make sure Despaigne's okay. It got him, I believe, on the left thigh, just above the knee, and the ball carromed into left field. Puig, thinking 2 as the ball went into shallow left, now decides, yes, it's worth going for, and winds up standing up with the double. For Yasiel Puig, that would be his 25th double. Bud Black wants to make sure Despaigne's okay. They will allow him certainly to make a toss or 2. He doesn't seem affected. He never rubbed. I think it was above the knee on the inside of the left leg. Let's take a better look. Here comes the ball. Yep. Might have caromed too off the heel of the glove. It happened so fast. Backhand. No, it just got him inside of that left leg. Well, it shows you that you talk about trying to throw a lamb chop by a wolf. throw all those breaking balls to Puig and strike him out and decide, he's looking breaking ball, I'm going to sneak a fastball by him. Not a chance. So here's Gonzalez. They grounded into a double play. Ball one. When Tommy Medica was running down the line, we showed him grimacing as he got near the bag at first. He didn't rub the back of the leg like a hamstring, and it turns out a right groin tightness. So hopefully they'll get him out and he won't tear anything, and he'll be back shortly. No score, fourth inning. Off speed. Though he's been 68, 69, and now one at 70. One ball and two strikes. Puig, double at second base here in the fourth. No score. Espana off the rubber. Dodgers had first and third in the first inning, failed to score. Had a runner at third with one out in the third, drew a blank. Now they have a leadoff double here in the fourth. And Grandal will go out to talk to him. So timeout. Pitch count shows 53. Bud Black and Dave Roberts. They don't give you, well, let's see. Yeah, they do. He made 103 pitches last time out against the Giants. That's his high. Fastball, 2-2. Dodgers lost 2 games in Detroit. The game that had to really frustrate them. They scored 5 runs in the first inning against Justin Verlander, who staggered and still picked up the victory, 14-5. Slow curveball, bobbled by Rivera, takes it to the bag. So with one out, Puig is at third, and the batter will be Matt Kemp. The point we wanted to make about Verlander, Justin Verlander of Detroit, his record against the National League, 23-2. So the Dodgers joined a long list of ball clubs mesmerized by Justin. So here's Matt Kemp. The infield is up. Kemp grounded to short hard in the second inning. Got a breaking ball in on the hands, turned and pulled it foul. Then got a fastball, hit it sharply, and Amarista stayed with it. So let's see what he gets. Fastball away. No runs, 3 hits for the Dodgers. No runs, 1 hit for the Padres. Clayton Kershaw now has that string of pearls at 40. Change, a little curveball at 68. Now he finds himself behind 2-0. Espana, 4 strikeouts, no walks up to here. Off speed again. So he's thrown 1 fastball, and Puig almost took his knee off. Now he's back to throwing a lot of slow stuff to Matt Kemp. Two balls, 1 strike. straddling the rubber. A little bit off the fastball. Two and two. Matt had a good road trip. Came home hitting .271. Infield up, outfield deep. 2 balls, 2 strikes. 1 out. There's the fastball for a strike. Isn't that something? Matt Kemp, thinking too much, takes a fastball right down the middle. 5 strikeouts for Despaigne. So Kemp goes down. Here's Van Slyke. Infield now goes back to a normal depth. Matt goes back to the dugout. That looked like the cutter. 0-1. Fly buzzing around, the dreaded infield fly. No balls, 1 strike. 1-1. Van Slyke grounded to short. It was a fine play by Alexi Amarista. One and one to Scott. Change up. A little blooper, wouldn't you know? A great changeup, and Van Slyke just puts the bat on it and gets himself a run batted in. A sheepish grin, and it doesn't look like it really bothered Despaigne. Well, you hit a hard ground ball, and Amarista makes a good play, and then you just put the bat on a half swing on a change. See that slow curveball, and you get a base hit and a run batted in. So 1-0 Dodgers. There have been a lot of 1-0 games. I'm not sure if we've had any in the last day or two. Through last Friday, there were 35 1-0 games. There were 48 1-0 games all last year. We'll see about this holding up. One ball and no strikes. 1-0 Dodgers, bottom of the 4th. And Uribe, a high fly ball, but it looks playable. Going back, still on the grass is Denorfia, and that'll be that. A modest thing and thine own, but it belongs to Scott Van Slyke. A little bit of a swing on a changeup, and it winds up a run-producing single. And at the end of 4, Dodgers lead 1-0. Kershaw has allowed 1 hit, no walks, and he has struck out 4. We'll take a look at the 4. It began with Chase Headley, then it was Brooks Conrad, followed by Carlos Quentin, and then Rene Rivera. So Clayton has 4 more pearls, leading 1-0. 40 consecutive scoreless innings. Who's ahead of him at 41? Well, let's see. Luis Tiant, he had left Boston. He was now with Cleveland. Ted Lyons with the White Sox at 41. Art Neff with the Red Sox at 41. 0-1. Jack Chesbro with Pittsburgh, and Grover Cleveland Alexander. So Kershaw, if he can get him here in this inning, his name will be linked with Grover Cleveland Alexander and Walter Johnson. We'll see. 1 ball and 1 strike to Yasmani Grandal, who grounded to third. 2nd inning. One and 2. In the dirt. Some bad news in the National League Central. A couple of really fine players. Brandon Phillips of Cincinnati, a torn thumb ligament, left thumb. He'll be out 6 to 8 weeks. And the Cardinals, Yadier Molina, with a ligament tear of the right thumb. He could be out 8 to 12 weeks. That'll do it for Grandal. That's 5 strikeouts for Clayton Kershaw. Say a reminder tomorrow, Dodgers Padres 7:10. After the game, fans are invited down to the field. Enjoy a superhero soundtrack Friday night fireworks show. Compliments of Denny's. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. So Clayton has 5. Here is Brooks Conrad, struck out in the 2nd inning. Ball 1. Padres have had 1 base runner, a 1-out single by Alexi Amarista in the 3rd inning. Two 2-0 the count to Brooks Conrad. Conrad, one of 3 switch hitters in the lineup, along with Headley and Grandal. High fly ball, shallow left. Ramirez out, Kemp in. Matt. So 2 out in the 5th inning, and Cameron Maybin coming up. Cameron Maybin out of Asheville, North Carolina. Lives in Arden, North Carolina. Originally signed by the Tigers. He was a 1st-round pick back in 2005. Ball 1. Maybin robbed of a hit. A fine defensive play by Juan Uribe. Two 2-0. Clayton trying to win his 8th in a row, trying to win his 11th victory of the year. 3-0. Cameron Maybin is long and lean, 6'3" and about 215. In high school, he hit a home run that measured .490, and ball 4. So Clayton has walked 1, given up 1 hit, and he has struck out 5. And here's Alexi Amarista, who brings up that small strike zone at 5-7, and single to left field in the 3rd inning. Amarista was originally signed by the Angels. And a strike. Understandably, Alexei decided he was through with baseball at the tender age of 16. He got so tired of having people tell him you're too short to play. So he decided just to play amateur softball. Cameron Maybin over there, good running speed, but he's been out. He'd only been in 50 some odd games, so he's only stolen 2 bases. 1-0 Dodgers, top of the 5th. There he goes. Pitch inside, throw is high and late. So Maybin, who brings a lot to the dance when he is healthy, got a good jump, steals second. He stole as many as 40 with the Padres a couple of years ago. But as we said, it's been a while since he's been 100%. Kept that foot on the bag. So for the second time, remember they sacrificed Amarista to second base. Second time a runner in scoring position. 0-2. Breaking ball, backhanded by Gordon. That'll be that. All right, get the string out, add another pearl. He has now gone 41 consecutive scoreless innings, and at the end of 4.5, 1-0 Dodgers. Campanella night. And the first 50,000 fans in attendance at the game with the Padres will take home a Pee Wee Reese and Roy Campanella bobblehead, compliments of United Healthcare. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotion. Well, we go to the bottom of the 5th inning. He's as good as it looked like he was on paper after 3 starts, 2 against the Giants, 1 against Arizona. But Drissimer Despaigne has allowed 1 run, pitched out of trouble in the first inning and again in the third. He has struck out 5, so he has matched Clayton in the strikeouts. And a strike to A.J. Ellis. So I guess the one pitch Despaigne would like back was either that slow curveball to Scott Van Slyke or the fastball to Yasiel Puig. There's the fastball. He kind of curls up before he releases that pitch. Pitched a lot of baseball in Cuba, and it shows. 0-2. Breaking ball. Waiting at the other end is DeNorfia. Take a look at the motion. At least it's one motion. This is when he seems to curl up, hiding behind that left knee. And he's throwing strikes. We told you that in the other games he had walked 8 and struck out 5. Tonight he has struck out 5 and he has not walked anybody. He's been very impressive. Kershaw sacrificed in the 3rd inning. Tied him up inside, though Clayton couldn't swing anyway. 2-0. Fastball him on the hands at 91. There are other pitchers who have pitched like Despaigne, not only mixing up the pitch and velocity, but the arm angle. Over the top with that fastball. Pitchers like Livan Hernandez, Jose Contreras, and of course his idol, Orlando Hernandez. 3-1. 3-2. Despaigne signed with the Padres May the 2nd of this year. So he's only been with the organization 2 months. And down goes Kershaw. Appears annoyed at himself for striking out. 6 strikeouts. 1 more than Clayton. One of the things the Padres did ask Despaigne to do was not to shake off his catcher. I guess their first game or two, he didn't want to rely on anybody, even a fellow countryman like Yasmani Grandal. Right. With Gordon up there, they pull up the corners. Headley's in on the grass. Rivera is on the edge of the grass. 1-0 Dodgers. 2 out, bottom of the 5th. D. Gordon. What a story. An erratic shortstop. Tried to learn to play center field. By default, when Alex Guerrero got into that ear-biting incident. And here's Gordon, the second baseman. Pardon me, the all-star second baseman. And deserves every bit of it. I couldn't believe it. I guess early in the last homestand, in the booth writing down a bunch of stuff, and I looked down on the field, and this is 3 hours before the game at least. He's on the grass just to the right of the mound. Lorenzo Bundy is hitting ground balls to him, and he's fielding the ground balls on the grass because when he's with the shift in right field, he's on the grass. Dodgers lead 1-0. Talking about Dee Gordon being a long shot and becoming an all-star. In 1962, the all-star game was played in Washington, D.C. That was the home of Maurice Morning Wills, who was the shortstop for the Dodgers and the National League all-star shortstop. And he put on a show for the hometown. He had a base hit. He had a stolen base. He scored a couple of runs. That was a memorable game where the National League beat the American League 3-1. And the mouse that roared led the way. Let's go back to this one. That's in for a strike. Despaigne followed by Denorfia and then Headley. Oh and 2. Despaigne sacrificed in the third inning. He's 0 for 5. Oh and 2. He almost walked into A.J. Ellis' return throw to the mound. 0 and 2. One and 2. 5 scoreless innings right now. Clayton has 41. Breaking ball got him. Six strikeouts for Clayton. 1 out, and Denorfia coming up. Denorfia lined out to right center, hit the ball hard in the first inning, and grounded out in the third. There are 2 pitchers who had a string of 42. Rube Foster with Boston and Brandon Webb of the Arizona Diamondbacks in 2007. They're each at 42. So we shall see. One ball and no strikes. That looked like a cutter at 87. Just came in on the hands. 1 ball, 1 strike. The Kershaw fastball, cutter, slider, curveball, fastball, and again with late action on it. 1 and 2 to Chris Denorfia. One ball and 2 strikes. Chris will be 34 in a couple of days, and the slow breaking ball takes care of it. He was looking fastball, and he was way out in front of it. So that's 7 strikeouts for Clayton. So Denorfia goes down. Chase Headley has struck out and popped up 0 for 2. We're in the 6th inning, and only Maben and Amarista have dodged the strikeout. Fastball. 1-2. So that cutter is 85, 86. Get to the fastball, you're in 90-degree country. Still 1-2. Then he has that big, slow curveball. Once in a while, he'll toss that thing in 68, 69. Padres intently watching him from the San Diego dugout. Fastball at 95. Headley barely did get a little bit of that thing going by. There they are. Of course, Will Venable with his hand to his mouth. He's faced Kershaw before. Slow curveball fouled away. So he went from a 95-mile-an-hour fastball to that 70-some-odd-mile-an-hour curve. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Clayton Kershaw is 6'3", 225 pounds. Fastball whacked into left center field. That's carrying. That ball is carrying and bounces over the wall. And so there it goes on a 1-2 count. Chase Headley clears the left center field wall to tie up the game, and the bubble has been burst. The chain of pearls has been concluded, and the crowd now standing, giving Clayton a round of applause. And remember, Chase Headley fouled off 3 two-strike pitches. One, a really good fastball he barely touched, and then he hits one out. Now Clayton has to regroup, and that can be even tougher. So let's see. Here's Quentin. 0-1. Here's Chase Headley and gives it a ride. Kemp went back looking and over the seats and then bounced back on the field. Clayton, with somewhat of a look of disbelief, now has to go back to work. It's a 1-1 tie. Three foul strikes. 3 times with 2 strikes. That close to putting Headley away. Fastball. By the way, with Clayton, you don't talk about it very often. That would be the 5th home run that he's given up. And there's the man who did it, Chase Headley. Little pop foul. Out of play. Who is Chase Headley? Well, among other things, he was a Gold Glover a couple of years ago. He's from Colorado, though he lives in Franklin, Tennessee. He went to the University of Tennessee. Chase was his high school valedictorian, and he was an academic All-American in high school in Fountain. Loved sports. Played baseball, basketball, football his freshman year. 6'2", 210, 30 years old. Chase Headley, by the way, 2 years ago had 31 home runs and 115 runs batted in. Oh, the slow curveball takes care of Quentin. He strikes out a second time. So it's an even longer walk back to the dugout after that home run with 2 strikes on Headley. More applause ringing in his ears. He'll get some 5s in the dugout. But the big thing now, he's tied up 1-1.
All right, Dodger fans, it's time for Stack City, presented by
Dodger baseball on Sportsnet LA is driven by your Southern California Mazda dealers. We have a 1-1 tie as Clayton Kershaw towels off. One of the things you overlook, of course, your eyes riveted on the home run. But the fact that Clayton struck out the side in the 6th inning, that pretty well went unnoticed. He has 8 strikeouts, 1 walk. He's allowed 2 hits, and he's tied up with Despaigne. Chase Headley. Chase, 2nd-round pick with the Padres back in 2005. Never could duplicate anywhere close to that year he had in 2012 when he hit the 31 home run. But he sure hit a big one tonight to finish up the gathering of the pearls. For Headley, that was his 7th home run of the year. Line drive foul. One other note for Chase Headley's scrapbook, that's the first home run he has ever hit against Clayton Kershaw, and he did it with 2 strikes, and he fouled off 3 pitches with 2 strikes on, and then the home run. And that's a base hit to right field. So Hanley Ramirez has 2 hits tonight, both hits going the other way. For Clayton Kershaw, we have some numbers for you. He had 41 consecutive scoreless innings, passed Sutton and Valenzuela, fell short of Hershiser and Drysdale. A tremendous effort. Then again, you know, he's only 26 years old. We shall see. One thing for sure, he cannot have a competitive letdown. Not the way this game is going. There goes Ramirez. Low pitch. Throw down. Gets away from Brooks Conrad. And he's going to go to third without a throw. Yasmani Grandal got a bad pitch with a runner going down and away, and he came back up, threw late, and then as you can see, the ball after the collision with Conrad, there's where they go shoulder to shoulder, and Hanley gets up and keeps on going. It'll be an error charge to Yasmani Grandal. Off speed. 2 balls and no strikes. Dodgers had Gordon reach third in the 1st inning with nobody out, and he failed to score. Ellis got to third with 1 out in the 3rd inning, and they left him. They finally scored Puig from second with a 2-out single. Well, if you're Yasiel, you got to realize you got 1 fastball tonight, and you drilled it off Despaign's leg. It doesn't figure he's going to get very many of those. 2 balls and 1 strike. Remember, we told you they were trying to discourage Despaigne from shaking off his catcher so much. Missed inside. 3-1. He's lived up to his numbers pretty well tonight. Three and 1 to Yasiel Puig. on the hands, a chopper to short, runner holding, and Arista takes care of Puig. You know, with a man at third and less than 2 outs tonight, the Dodgers are now 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts, a double play, and a ground ball. So now Adrian Gonzalez came up with 1 out, runners at first and third in the first inning, and grounded into a double play. Came up in the 4th inning with Puig at second, hit a ground ball to first to get Yasiel over to third. One tie. And a change, ball 1. We were talking earlier about the 1-run games. There were 3 since last Wednesday. That makes it 38 1-run games, 1-0 games. So 38 1-0 games. Well, this is no longer in that category. One and 1 to Adrian Gonzalez. Ramirez down the line, the infield up with 1 out. Grandal has to bluff, that's all it is, and Ramirez knows with a left-hand hitter up, Chase Headley's almost at shortstop. Two balls, 1 strike. Big slow curveball. 3-1. On deck, Matt Kemp. Remember last time up, he set Matt up 2-2 and then threw a fastball right down the middle. And Kemp was looking for anything but. Off speed, high fly ball. That's deep enough to score Ramirez. Cameron Maiden will make the long throw, but not nearly in time. And the Dodgers lead 2-1. Boy, Adrian Gonzalez, 59 runs batted in. So the throwing error and the stolen base eventually cashed in on the sac fly. Two runs, 5 hits for the Dodgers, 1 run, 2 hits for the Padres. And the batter is Matt Kemp. And fastball strike. He was caught looking at strike 3 fastball. And Despaigne started him fastball. And the big slider. 1-1. Slider. Amarista was in the hole, could not go back to get it. That was a much slower breaking ball than the ones that he's been throwing before. And Kemp was able to get it by. That was not that hard biting slider. Amarista was in the hole. No way he could go back and get it. So Matt's now 1 for 3. Van Slyke hit the ball hard. Amarista made a nice play to take a hit away from him. And then in the 4th inning, Van Slyke almost a half swing on an off-speed pitch and blooped one into right field for a base hit and a run batted in. We can take another look. The old story, it will look like a line drive in the box score. And he picked up an RBI with it as well with that sheepish grin. Fastball. Look where Amarista has to throw from, and Rivera can't handle it. From up here, it looked like that was asking the shortstop too much. Maybe the third baseman could have been able to cut over in front and make the play. Oh, we can always take another look at that. It just seemed like an unfair. Here's Headley. And remember, you have a catcher playing first base as well. So the Dodgers now have runners at second and third. Be another error charged to Amarista. Three errors now by the Padres. Here's Uribe. And a ground ball. Nice pick by Brooks Conrad. That saved at least one, maybe two runs. But the Dodgers get one. And at the end of 6, Dodgers 2, Padres 1. Top of the 7th inning. Be sure to watch the premiere of Larry King at Bat with Joe Torre. Join us for a sit down with manager Joe Torre. He'll talk about his career managing the Yankees and the Dodgers. Don't miss Larry King at Bat with Joe Torre Sunday at 5 p.m. on Sportsnet LA. Yeah, the names kind of go together, but not quite as close as we were hoping. Hershiser, Drysdale, and Kershaw. So Clayton now has to blank out everything else. They get the scoreless innings. He's winning 2-1, trying to win his 8th in a row and get his record to 11-2. 0-1. Rene Rivera, a catcher forced to play first base, and it's been asking a little too much of him. 0-1. Big curveball, little fly ball to Van Slyke. Yasmani Grandal has grounded to third and struck out. Again, the only two Padres who have avoided the strikeout: Cameron Maybin, Alexi Amarista. Ball 1. The Padres coming into this game had been shut out 12 times. 7 of the 12 shutouts while they were on the road. When you look at the Padres, there's one very interesting part of their game. If they score 4 runs or more, their record is 28-4. If they allow 4 runs, their record is 6-34. And the big problem with San Diego, with Chris Denorfia, Chase Headley, etc., they have scored 3 runs or less 59 times. Ground ball into left field. 91 pitches made by Clayton here in the 7th. Gives up his 3rd hit. Brooks Conrad has struck out and flied to left. Padres are like the Dodgers in one way. Each team 1 game under 500 at home. Padres are 24-25. Dodgers are 22-23. Fastball whacked to left. On his horse is Kemp. Picks it off, and back to first base goes Grandal.
Center fielder, Cameron Maybin.
So 2 out, and Cameron Maybin coming up. Maybin robbed of a hit by Uribe in the 3rd inning, walked in the 5th. Big play by Uribe because following Amarista singled. So they could have had 1st and 2nd and nobody out. That was back in the 3rd inning. Right. We told you that Cameron Maybin in high school hit a home run that traveled 490 feet. Everything about him growing up, he was an outstanding young player. So there were a lot of reasons for the Tigers to make him a 1st-round pick. But things have never quite developed for him. Cameron, 27 years old. As we mentioned, he has stolen as many as 40. He has homered as many as 9. He had a very good year for the Padres in 2011. Still a young man, of course, at 27. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Kevin Quackenbush begins to warm up now in the San Diego pen. They're thinking perhaps of heading for Despagne. Fastball, a little low. So deuces are all over the place. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. Clayton Ware's double 2, and the Dodgers lead 2-1. Despagne sits back. He's pitched very well. Very well. Off-speed pitch. Puig has to race to his left. So no runs, 1 hit, a man left, and Clayton walks off. We're heading for the bottom of the 7th. 2-1 Dodgers. 2-1 in favor of the Dodgers. Bottom of the 7th inning. Clayton Kershaw will be hitting after his buddy A.J. Ellis. Dodgers scored in the 4th inning. Puig doubled and scored on a single by Van Slyke. And then in the 6th inning, Ramirez single, stole second, took third on the throw that wound up in center field, scored on a fly ball. So really, the Padres have played fast and loose with the baseball. They've committed 3 errors. Despaigne easily could be just tied up. Fastball strike, and he leaned that way by third base. I think he's given Ellis more fastballs than anybody else in the Dodger lineup. Over the top with a change, and there's Amarista at the other end of it. So from a good fastball in the mid-90s, he came back with a changeup at 64 miles an hour. That is some change. 1 away. Clayton Kershaw sacrificed and struck out. Fastball. 0-1. 2 runs, 7 hits for the Dodgers. 1 run, 3 hits, and 3 errors for San Diego. Fastball, half swing for a strike. San Diego came into the game having committed 53 errors. The Dodgers came into the game having committed 58. The Blacks club has done pretty well with the glove until tonight. Down goes Clayton, slow curveball. Of course, again, remember, Tommy Medica went out with a tight right groin. Rene Rivera, who was a catcher, playing first base, and he's had a lot of problems as far as getting off the bag to field a throw. Rene has tried desperately to keep his right foot on the bag. Amarista has made a couple of long throws, and a veteran, experienced first baseman would have caught the ball and then stepped on the bag. But Rene tries to stretch, and he couldn't do it. So Amarista has been charged with 2 errors. Let's say if Adrian Gonzalez was playing first base, Amarista would not have an error, and there have been a couple of good outs at first. 0-1. Amarista, by the way, leads off in the 8th inning. Two balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, 2-1 Dodgers. Bottom of the 7th inning. Amarista will be followed by Despaigne or a pinch hitter, and then Denorfia. He shook him off 3 times. Slow curveball. The old story when you watch a pitcher shake off the catcher. The wording is very carefully written. The catcher suggests, the pitcher calls the game. 2-2. Got that up to 91. D. Gordon singled his first trip. D hitting .299. Slow curveball. Quentin right there. So the Dodgers done in this 7th inning. And we are heading to the 8th. 2-1 Dodgers. In the 8th inning, and Clayton will be facing Alexei Amarista, followed by Will Venable, who will come off the bench to pinch hit. By the way, in case you wondered, it was Orel Hershiser, then it was Don Drysdale. Tonight, Clayton Kershaw, 41 innings. Behind Drysdale, after Hershiser leads the parade, behind Drysdale would be Bob Gibson, who had 47 consecutive scoreless innings back in 1968. Miguel Rojas now at shortstop for the Dodgers. Hanley Ramirez had a couple of base hits, a stolen base, scored a run, and now Miguel takes over. Right. 1-1. Amarista single to left and grounded out. And a drive to left center, but Van Slyke is there. One out in the 8th inning. And here is Will Venable coming up to bat for Despaigne, who pitched a terrific game. Wow. His 4th major league game. He allows 2 runs. Might have been only 1. So Despaigne lived up to everything that he did in his first 3 starts. 2 against the Giants, 1 against Arizona. Without the throwing error, the advancement by Ramirez, it would still be a 1-1 tie, and he'd still be in there. Fly ball to Puig. So Venable goes down on the fly ball, and the batter will be DeNorfia.
Right fielder, number 13, Chris DeNorfia.
Chris DeNorfia flied out hard to right center in the 1st inning, grounded to second base in the 3rd, and struck out in the 6th. Kershaw has struck out 8, including the side in the 6th inning when Chase Headley hit the home run. Another interesting thing, there aren't that many things to talk about where the Padres have been doing very well, but certainly one of them is their bullpen. So you look back and you say, if Ramirez does not get to third on the throwing error, 1-1, you battle with their bullpen and you have your hands full. For instance, the San Diego bullpen has the lowest earned run average among every relief staff in the National League. The bullpen has only lost 6 games. They've only blown 4 saves. They don't allow runners to score that are on base. They don't allow home runs. So the bullpen's been terrific. Well, that'll do it for Denorfia. He strikes out a second time. 9 strikeouts. Kershaw does it in 10 pitches. He's now made 107, and we're going to the bottom of the 8th. 2-1 Dodgers. Bottom of the 8th inning. Kevin Quackenbush will pick up now for Despaigne. Quackenbush out of Tampa, Florida, went to the University of South Florida. Last year, he struck out about 40% of all the right-hand batters that he faced, and he held left-handers to a 200 batting average. The opposition batting average against him this year has been low. One of those towers of strength that we talked about in the San Diego bullpen this year, Kevin Quackenbush. For the Dodgers, Miguel Rojas will come up. You know, the Dodgers were, of course, in Detroit for 2 games. Yesterday against Max Scherzer, Miguel Rojas hit his first home run of the year and of his young career. The only run the Dodgers got, they lost that game 4-1. So Rojas finishing up for Ramirez, then Puig and Gonzalez. Fastball, 0-1. Quackenbush in high school caught everybody's attention. He had a couple of no-hitters. Padres drafted him in the 8th round 3 years ago. Quackenbush talks about the fact that the Yankees trained in Tampa. A push bunt. Who's covering first? It's Quackenbush. The feed is over his head. Going to second base is Rojas. And I guess another tough play for the catcher playing first base, Rene Rivera. You know, there's an old expression in baseball, you can't hide him. Now here goes the first baseman, and then trying to spot the throw, and he threw it way too high. And Quackenbush is 6'3". So Rene, it's just a different position, and he can't handle it. It'll be 1-1. It'll go as a base hit, and then the error is the fourth error committed by the Padres. For Bud Black, he has learned to take it, but he's got to be really churning inside. Check swing, they look, no swing. So, of course, for Bud Black, he's got to figure out, number one, how Tommy Medica is. Is he well enough to play tomorrow after that tight right groin? If not, would he come back with Rivera at first base? Fastball strike. One ball and one strike. Late on that 92-mile-an-hour fastball. I'm sure Yasiel is saying, how? Me late on a fastball? No way. But he was late. Because he got one fastball tonight and really savaged the left leg of Despaigne. One and two to Yasiel. He had a leg double with the emphasis on leg when he hit that comebacker in the fourth inning against Despaigne on the fastball. 2-2. Puig hitting .307, 12 home runs, 50 runs batted in. Rojas at second base. Nobody out. And fastball at the knees. Yasiel was late on one fastball, and either he thought that was going to be too low, but he goes away, striking out a second time. So one away. Adrian Gonzalez coming up. Chase Headley visiting with Quackenbush. Adrian Gonzalez hit into a double play, grounded out, and had a sacrifice fly in the sixth inning. Big man, 14 home runs, 59 runs batted in. Fastball, 0-1. Dodgers trying to get Rojas home, trying to add to a 2-1 lead. And by the way, when the Padres come up in the ninth inning, they'll have Chase Headley, who in some ways could be considered the villain of the piece when he hit the home run to break up the string of pearls. Then Quentin and Rivera. So Clayton concentrating on trying to win his 8th in a row and his 11th of the year. The paid attendance tonight, 50,000. 50,332. Including you, young lady. Throwing a lot of fastballs, and he's 3-1 to Adrian. Because his fastball, Quackenbush's fastball, has been clocked as high as 94. First base open, and right-hand hitters Kemp and Van Slyke. So he might just pitch around Adrian. Fastball, chopper up the middle, gobbled and dropped and recovered and dropped. Amaristi might have actually, in his haste, might have taken away a better play for Brooks Conrad, the second baseman. Looked like Conrad had a short distance to go. Watch this, to get to the ball. High bouncer. Conrad is in position, and Amaristi on the run couldn't do it. So the Dodgers will get themselves an infield single. On the play, Rojas advances to third, and now Kemp and Van Slyke. So 4 errors and an awkward play. Matt Kemp has grounded to short, struck out, and singled in the 6th inning. Fastball. That's really the pitch for Quackenbush. We haven't seen a great curveball by any means, nor have we seen a changeup. So he's staying with the fastball so far. 0-1. That's a tight curveball he threw. 0-2 the count to Matt Kemp. Met certainly knows that he was caught looking at a good fastball in the 4th inning. 0-2. Fastball. Got him. And Matt can't believe it, but down he goes. Matt trying very hard to restrain himself. So for the second time, Kemp called out on a fastball. Matt's still very unhappy. And the batter will be Scott Van Slyke. Van Slyke lost a hit to Amaristi. Single to right. Little bloop single on a change. He had a half a swing and got it into right field. Last time up, grounded out. First and third, 2 out. 0-2. Not quite a one-trick pony, but Quackenbush certainly is getting it done with a preponderance of fastballs. Well, preponderance. 0-2. And how do you do? Another fastball. So he strikes out the side. Dodgers lead Rojas. And it's up to Clayton Kershaw now. He's got 9 strikeouts, and he's 3 outs away from his 11th victory and his 8th in a row. We'll see if he can get it. Can join millions of players on the only official home run derby mobile game from MLB.com. Square off against your friends from around the world. Live in a multiplayer derby mode. Climb to the top of the leaderboards. Download today for free on the Apple App Store and Google Play. Remember, Yasiel Puig will be one of those competing in the home run derby. Well, we've reached the ninth inning. Kershaw ready to face Headley, the man who homered to break up the dream. Chase came up in the sixth inning, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Got it what looked like a high slider and just did hit it over the fence, and that was that. The string of pearls broken at 41. 0-2 the count to Chase. The 2 starters who have failed to strike out, Cameron Maybin and Alexei Amaristi. Kershaw's gotten at least everybody once. Big curveball, and down goes Headley. For Clayton, with his tremendous stuff, 10 strikeouts. Big curveball.
Left fielder number 18, Carlos Quentin.
Carlos Quentin flied to center and struck out twice. He's 0 for 3. Dodgers leading 2-1. Fly ball, a trio of Dodgers. Matt Kemp. So 1 out to go, and Kershaw will have won 8 in a row, and his record will be 11-2. And yet, there's some disappointment tonight. Number 1, that he didn't get closer with the zeros. And number 2, even though the Dodgers are winning 2-1, remember, the Padres made 4 errors. And with runners in scoring position tonight, the Dodgers are 2 for 13 with 7 strikeouts. So it has not been a very impressive victory, except for Kershaw. For Kershaw, there have been 21 swings and misses, while striking out 10. 0-1. Many here of the 50,000 on their feet. Oh and 1. 1 ball, 1 strike, no swing. Crowd, of course, wants everything to go Clayton's way. Rivera 0 for 2, struck out, flied to center. Had to take over at first base for Tommy Medica, and that hurt San Diego. 1-1. Fastball down. Two runs, 9 hits for the Dodgers. 1 run, 2 hits for San Diego. Well, he finishes with a flourish. That's 11 strikeouts for Clayton Kershaw. Another absolutely incredible performance, and yet there is somewhat of a feeling of disappointment. He certainly pitched well enough to pitch another shutout, but he didn't quite do it because of Chase Headley. Took him only 8 pitches in the 9th inning. He made 115 total, and that's that. Naturally, without a shadow of the doubt, Clayton Kershaw, the player of the game. Absolutely. He allowed just 3 hits, 1 run, the home run by Headley, while striking out 11. A remarkable performance, and the left-hander just keeps getting better and better all the time. Tomorrow night, Dodgers and Padres. Hope you'll be out here with us if you can. Talk to you then. Till then, we wish you all a very pleasant good evening, everybody.